Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Hodges, the Results Coach. Welcome to Chattanooga Self-Improvement Meetup, a mastermind group where we listen, ask questions, comment, and learn in an effort to make each person the best version of themselves, thus helping to make the world a better place in which to live. We are a closely connected group of truly authentic people. We are an exemplary illustration of the fact that authenticity is the great connector. We're very pleased to have our guest speaker today, Vincent Phipps. I like to call him Ivan. I have another friend named Ivan. So if I call you Ivan today, please excuse me. His full name is Vincent Ivan Phipps. He's a certified speaking professional. He's a communications coach with a double master's in organizational management and executive leadership. Vincent has a passion for helping professionals deliver better sales pitches to provide maximum value to audiences in every presentation opportunity. Vincent's area of presentation expertise focuses specifically on increasing content clarity, maintaining professional confidence, and executive engaging delivery. Vincent loves to keep his audience laughing and learning with his high energy humor and his expertise. According to an international database, Vincent is recognized in the top 1% of the world's best professional speakers and trainers. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Low Energy Vincent.
Good morning, everyone. Foremost, Glenn, thank you, sir, for allowing me to be here. Thank you, all you fine people from all over, wherever you are. I know this is an early, brisk morning, so thank you all for being here with your coffee, your tea, your smoothie, your Lego, your bagels, whatever you're here with. I'm glad you're here with Glenn and I hope that I bring you all maximum value on this call today to amplify your lives and to find some self-improvement to make your lives and the lives of other people a lot better. Thank you all for being here.
Well, we're glad to be here and glad to have you with us, Vincent. Now, what are you going to teach us today?
We got to look at dynamics that impact who we are as people. And one of the first things we need to do is to improve our own self-talk so we can be reflections of positivity for others. There are going to be dynamics I want you all to understand today about the importance of how to improve your self-talk and improve your own communication skills. First is you got to look at how you talk to yourself. You want to stop saying anything that can be detrimental to you, such as knowing my luck, this isn't going to work, or oh, these things always happen to me, or when someone asks you, how's your day? You go, oh, well, I'm just hanging on. These are all self-deprecating thoughts. When someone says, are you going to pay for this? Well, and wait till my check come in. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my head hurts. We are feeding ourselves all of this continuing negativity. And the same way you can take a boulder and you just chip at it, tick, 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 over time, that boulder will turn into a pebble. And you look at the monstrosity of something so huge, it's those little bitty chips that erode the integrity of that stone. And we've got to look at our own self-reflection as that monstrosity of a stone. Every time you allow someone or something to chip away at your exterior, you're damaging your interior. So we've got to make sure that we eat good things, we drink good things, we hang around smart people, we put good things in our brains and our bodies so that our bodies don't erode, but they become even more finite and strong. Because you can't help other people until you first learn how to improve and help yourself.
Amen, brother.
Is this too early for a Tuesday morning? Is this too early?
Well, we can do one thing. You know, oftentimes we let our speaker speak, then we jump in. But I think Vincent wants us to kind of unmute as long as we don't have a lot of noise in the background, so he can engage with us.
Well, let's if you all have questions, feel free to ask, let me share with you two different suggestions I highly recommend that you do if you want to improve your communication with those dear people. First is we want to look at how we're asking people questions. There is a technique that I want to teach you all that's called the question cube. The question cube, if you look at a cube as in four hemispheres, there are four areas of questions that we want to identify. The first is we're going to call them closed questions. These closed questions encapsulate getting short answers. Do you agree? Is this okay? Can we move forward? If you are in sales or if you are in entrepreneurialism or if you have to deal with negotiations, the mistake that we make when we're trying to listen is that we want the other person to share, but we're asking lousy questions. For example, if you want to know what value someone received from a class or from a course, you don't ask, did you like the class? I remember as a kid, my mom would always ask me, what were the top three things you learned in school today? I knew that meant Vincent, explain yourself time at this private school your mom is paying for. So I wasn't going to dare say, oh, nothing, because if she's working three jobs to put me through private school, there's no way I'm going to say, oh, nothing. I have to go through the day and go, I'm going to tell my mom about sociology. I'm going to tell my mom about geometry. I'm going to tell my mom about history. So I'm coming in, getting ready to share, and she's asking me the right kind of questions so that I can disseminate information. Second thing you want to do when you are listening to others, you want to avoid terms that we're going to call fire terms. Fire terms are these words or phrases that can make us emotional or angry. Here are some examples of those fire terms. First, the word but is a fire term. It can make you angry. For example, if someone asks you, do you like John? And you go, yeah, I like John, but now all of a sudden, here comes the truth. Here comes the dirt. Here comes the garbage. So you want to make sure you're avoiding those but terms because what happens is you focus on what comes after the but. So if someone, it's almost like you ask somebody, you know, will you marry me? They go, well, I love you, but it's not going to be a good day. It's to just go home, take the ring back. It ain't going to happen. They don't want you. And that can be a tough pill to swallow. Another fire term or ambiguous terms such as usually or very or practically or actually or literally. These terms erode how we communicate. And we use these unnecessarily. The same way if you are asked by someone, did you finish the project? That's a closed yes no question. And if they ask you, did you finish the project? And you say, basically, or practically, like, see, Marsha knows what this is telling people is uh-oh, something's missing. Now I got to ask you more questions to weave through your bull to find out what's missing, and people don't want to do that. If the look at it this way: if you're driving down the street and a police officer pulls you over, whoop, 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 and the police officer says, step outside of the car, please. And you ask the officer, am I going to jail? And the officer says, basically, you going to jail. Ain't no practically, ain't no maybe, ain't no kinda. Click, click. So, so you want to make sure if the answer is yes, say yes. If the answer is no, say no. But those ambiguous terms erode communication and it makes people question you. A last thing we want to look at in terms of ambiguity, how we listen, is you want to make sure that when you're engaged in conversations, you do a technique that I call connector questions. Connector questions will give you the freedom of not having to talk about yourself. If you are like 54% of the population and you're an introvert and you're more of a low key, quiet, behind the scenes, keep to yourself, not an outgoing person, that's okay. There are times where you're going to have to engage in conversation. If you want a foolproof, undetectable way of having masterful conversations without talking about yourself, you use this technique that's called connector questions. And here's how you do it. If you're talking to someone, you ask them a question that is a what, how, where, or when question. How is your day? What's going on? What do you do for fun? Make it a prodigious question that will get them talking. Stay away from the can you, are you, did you questions because those are yes nos. When you ask someone, what do you do for fun? Or what part of the city do you live in? or what do you do for a living? These thought-provoking questions, it's going to stimulate intellectual conversation. And as Americans, when we hear words that are what, where, how, where, or when, the left part of our brain that controls all of our vocabulary goes into get ready to answer mode. So when you ask someone, what do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? Whatever they say, it doesn't matter. You want to listen for a keyword or phrase that they say. For example, if they say, oh, I like to go hiking. If they say hiking, don't ask them, oh, you like hiking? Do you golf? Ah, they ain't mention golf. You mention golf. And then you have those awkward pauses. Don't do that. You take advantage of what they say. So you go, okay, you like to hike. Well, where are some of the places you've hiked last? They may mention Yosemite. They may mention Yellowstone. Now you got two key words to play off of. You can say, what was it like in Yellowstone? Or how long were you there in Yosemite? And you can bridge off of what that person says. You never have to talk about yourself. You don't have to talk about what you enjoy. You can keep your own private demeanor. I don't want nobody to know who I am, but you'll get credit for being a great conversationalist. When you listen more effectively, you know what you want to say, and you ask appropriate questions, you will always have the advantage of a communicator. And if you want to make the world better, we got to start with ourselves. How's that?
That fits right in. And so, what about letting your actions be your evidence?
Come on, Glenn. Come on, Glenn. One of the things we have to do is to be authentic and accountable. You've got to be
word.
Come on, authentic and accountable. In other words, if you are an investor, you've got to be honest with people that you lost money. If you are a trainer, if you are a physical trainer, you got to tell people that you love you some chocolate chip cookies. If you are a relationships coach, you got to be honest with people that sometimes you make mistakes in your own relationships because people want to know that they can talk to someone who is relatable. Whenever I talk about my presentation skills or I talk about training or coaching, I tell them when I screwed up in a speech. I tell them when I said the wrong thing to my wife. I tell them when I made a bad decision in negotiations. When your actions are definitive, they can look at the mistakes that we've made. What people want to know is that you can recover from mistakes. Nobody wants to be around a perfect person that never curses, that never makes mistakes, that never does anything wrong. That makes them feel alienated. What they want is someone who has made mistakes, owned up to those mistakes. But the important part is, like Glenn said, let your actions be your evidence. I once gave a presentation and I did not prepare. Oh, sugar. I was horrible. I'm looking, it was one of those stages where they had three cameras. I'm over there looking around, I'm like, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm just horrible. I don't know where to look. I don't know where to stand. They had this X I'm supposed to stand on. They were going to record the speech. I didn't stand on the X. I was just horrible. After that speech, there was a lady that came up to me and she said, they pay you for this? Oh, now Glenn, I did keep the check. I ain't gonna lie to you. I kept that check. But that was the last time I ever went on stage without being prepared, without talking to the coordinators, without knowing my proximity positions, without knowing my content. I've never made that mistake again because I was so embarrassed. I was so hurt that I said I devalued everybody in that audience. Now, it wasn't a huge audience. I was early in my career, but to this day, that lady somewhere, that's her memory of me. And in my mind, every time I give a speech, I'm thinking, if that lady's watching me right now, let me show her how much I've gotten better. Let me show her how much I've trained. Let me show her how much I've improved. And when you tell people that you've fallen, but you've risen, there's a stronger level of your evidence being evident than someone hearing that you've never fallen and you never failed. You want to make sure that the way you live your life is indicative to the way you want others to live theirs.
Sounds good to me.
Come on, Earl. Come on. You are too kind.
I'm very busy here taking notes, Vincent.
Well, I hope it's valuable. You're one of the smartest guys I know, Earl. So if I got you taking notes, brother, I may be doing above average, and I'm glad you're here, brother.
You always do above average.
Oh, Oh man.
Since we're kind of free flowing here, have you ever had a prepared program and you got there and discovered they were actually expecting you to speak on something else and had to switch gears?
Oh,
What
You-
did you do?
Here's what you do. First, you quickly say to yourself, "Oh crap." So you get that out the way. Don't hide the emotion. You get that out the way. I was once asked to be the keynote speaker for a group called the PHCC. That stands for the Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors of America. PHCC. If you type in my name, Vincent Phipps, PHCC, you'll see that they've had me as their keynote speaker in California, Hawaii, all over the world. It's been a pleasure. These are people who are plumbing and cooling contracting experts. I made the assumption that plumbers don't make any money. I messed up. I messed up. I messed up. Oh my gosh. I found out that the average physician makes $80,000, but they're in debt a quarter mil. Everybody with me? I found out the average plumber makes $90,000, no debt. Everybody with me? Now, if
yeah.
you want to be a plumber, you want to be a surgeon, no problem. But it takes you probably 12 years to get a medical degree and probably about 4 years to be a master plumber. So I show up going to give them data about improve your life, go for more. You can do awesome things in life. You don't have to be a plumber.
Oh.
I know. Ooh. And when and I'm on the plane, Glenn, I'm on the plane. You guys remember the Blackberries where you can scroll with your thumb? You guys remember the Blackberries?
I hated them.
I love my BlackBerry. I was official with my BlackBerry. It was like a little mouse. I'm on the plane. The plane is delayed, so I figured let me just do some research on this organization. So I'm on the plane and I figure out all this data where here's the sales cost. Most plumbers have 5 employees or less. Most plumbers have little to no debt. You ever seen the home of a plumber? These are not broke people. These are fluent, educated specialists. So I'll show up, Glenn. I'm walking in the door with a here's why I love my plumber story. I walk in with for my rental properties. Here's why I always call Bubba, who is my master plumber. I tell them about the time that my plumber saved me money because I didn't need a new hot water heater. All I needed was a new filter. And I thank that plumber for their honesty, for their integrity. They saved me money. Glenn, they like, oh, he finally gets it. He understands. I'm thinking if I would have spared this speech 10 minutes ago, y'all would have fired me and wanted the check back. So I had to instantly change my presentation and I spoke for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
I remember at some point you sharing a story about overcoming some real adversity.
Mhm.
Would you feel like sharing something today?
Wow, I've had a lot of adversity, Glenn. Which one?
Well, I forget that. What why don't you share the one that you feel like sharing?
Fair enough, sir. Some of you know this. I know my dear friend Maurice and my dear friend Earl and my dear friend Deborah. I know that some of you may know this already, but some don't. Back in 2005, I almost died. I broke my neck in two places and I was bedridden for about 2 or 3 months. My skull was split open and they had to push my brain together and they had to do those suture clamps when my truck had flipped over off of the side of Ringo Road. I thought it was done over. It was so bad that when I gained consciousness, I saw my brother, my dad, and my mom all in the same room, and everybody was crying. They're just bawling. So when I asked my mom what's wrong, she just started crying more. And even though my mom is a strong woman of faith, when I asked my mom, how bad is it? Her response was, We gonna put it in God's hands. Like what? What kind of answer is that, Mom? How about you'll be fine, son? I'm like, what the heck? God's involved now? That's how close I am? And oh, it was horrible. I had to go through 3 or 4 months of surgery. I had to have bone removed from my hip to put bone back into my neck. I had to relearn how to walk. I had this neck brace on. It was just a bad situation. And at the time, my wife of 14 years now, she was my girlfriend back then. And I was depressed. My body was changing in a way I didn't want it to change. I couldn't move. Glenn, you know who loves you when there are certain parts of your body that don't work and you need help from your family and friends. That's when you know who loves you. Woo! Hey, Maurice. Hey, Maurice. I know. Hey, Glenn. I know we PG-13. I'm gonna leave it right there. That's when you know who loves you. And they said you're probably not gonna walk anymore. They said we're gonna get you fitted for a chair. There's a neurologist in Nashville that specializes in paralysis. We're gonna go fly you up to see him. I'm thinking, crap, really? And I told my girlfriend at that time, I said, they're saying I may not walk, I might not move. If you want to leave me, I understand. It's okay. I don't remember saying this, but she said I said it, and then we were married about a year later. She said, whether you get up out of this bed or whether you never get up at all, I'll be right here.
Oh.
And Vincent, would you take a minute and talk about the contributions and some of the interactions that you have as an instructor at UTC with young people who want to learn how to be better communicators?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Maurice. And thank you for mentioning that, Maurice. The I've had Maurice and Earl and Deborah all be expert interviewers for my students. And for the last 13 years, I've been a professor at UTC teaching public speaking. And it is mind blowing how good some can be and how others need some work. So I give them an assignment where they are to identify their dream job, and they are to do the research on what's their salary pays, what they need to dress for, what are the requirements of their job, and they come in like Shark Tank style. They come in the interview, and they're asked questions such as, "Oh, what's the best way to be selected for this position?" or "What are the requirements for this job?" And I videotape them, Glenn, and then I make them watch themselves on video. Like, ah, ah. I say, "Look, the world already knows how you look. You need to be comfortable with how you look. I hate my voice. Then change your voice." So make sure that they are having an interview. And people like Earl will ask them, "Well, how did you come up with this salary range?" People like Maurice will ask them, "Well, why should I hire you? And I got 5 people standing outside that line." Deborah gives them a break. Deborah takes it easy on them. Deborah asks them, "Well, I'm so glad you're here. What can I do to make you more comfortable?" Like, "No, Deborah, don't make them comfortable. Make them work for it." So everybody has that experience where when they are interviewed for real, when they are told you can't walk in chewing gum, when they're told that you need to put on a suit, not a t-shirt, when they're told what do you see yourself in, where do you see yourself in 5 years, they don't go, "Oh, wow, oh, that's a nice question." It's an interview. What you think they're gonna ask you? What's your favorite flavor of Kool-Aid? So you need to make sure that these are people that you know what they're going to ask you. So when you prepare for putting yourself in those moments, you make yourself uncomfortable. And what not just young people, but what all of us are missing are those experiences where you're put under fire. You're put in a position of stress. You're put in a position where you have to perform. So when you perform for real, it's not your first time. So those students get real world experience of not dealing with negativity, but how to channel that energy and turn it to positivity. So when it's in the real world, it's not their first time and they look and sound more polished.
That's interesting. And that I teach a lot of my clients, in which for many years I had an executive search firm. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, we're dealing with professionals there that have been around the block. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you say the word interview,
Mm-hmm.
it frightens people and they clam up. And so what I would teach my people was the fact that, look, you're going into that meeting with an executive or hiring official or whatever as the marketing manager of whatever it is that you have to offer the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's your job before you go in to learn as much as you can about that company. You want to know the profitability of the company. You want to know what they've done
Mm-hmm.
good at, what they've done poorly at, so that you can ask questions
Mm-hmm.
after when the time comes, and that it's a two-way street. If you're going in there with, oh my God, I got to get an offer, that's not the right approach.
Exactly. No,
You,
go ahead. I'm sorry, again. Go ahead.
you are looking to see if you feel it's a good match as much as they're looking to see if it's a good match. So
You want to be a good fit, and the mistake that all of us make, well, statistically, according to the APA, the American Psychology Association, 82% of today's professionals still rank public speaking as a top 3 fear. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, male, female, agnostic, atheist. It doesn't matter. If you're a human, there's some element that makes you terrified when you have to speak to people. Now, I'm one of those weird people that enjoyed show and tell. I was one of those weird people that loved to be in front of the church to tell a story. I was one of those weird people that is comfortable in front of a camera. It doesn't bother me, but I know that's abnormal. And what ends up happening is we develop the ideology of, I'm afraid to speak in public. I don't want people, I'm afraid to speak. The truth is, we're not afraid to speak because it's human nature to avoid the things that you fear. So you don't run to a lion, you don't jump out of a building because that's counterproductive. What people are afraid of, Glenn, here's the truth. People are afraid of being ridiculed and they're afraid of being judged.
mm,
That's the truth. They want to be seen as smart, they want to be seen as capable. And putting yourself in a position where you are either on stage on camera, on stage in front of a big audience, on stage in front of a video. When you're on stage, when you're in front of people, that platform enables you to be scrutinized and to be judged. And that's what makes people terrified is that scrutiny, being judged, being seen as less professional, and that fear erodes the preparation. And the truth is, the best way to overcome those fears is to embrace it. Be aware that it's okay to be scared. It is normal. You don't think that for all of our brave men and women who are in the armed forces, when they have to when they have to jump out of planes or go underwater or do these missions, they're trained for that, but there's still that fear there. If you look at veterans such as Maurice and any other veterans that we have on this call, that fear is still there, but they know they have a mission. They know they have a training. They have a focus that they're on. Now, I don't even want to insult anybody who in the military to compare presentation skills to serving in our military, but know that whether you are afraid or prepared, the best way to reduce that fear is to increase your preparation no matter what you're doing.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Uh, who This is free flowing, folks. It's mastermind time. We're clamming up today, and I know we're starting off a little bit differently today, but why don't Crystal Evans there, all the way from Philadelphia? You do a lot of speaking, and you've dealt with a lot of adversity, whatever. Do you have a comment or a question you'd like to ask Vincent?
Well, thank you for your energy.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. My pleasure. Thank you.
My biggest
Cut that arm out, Crystal. Cut that arm out, Crystal. No arms today. Come on, Mama. Start over.
no arms, no
No
butt.
arms today. No arms today. Start over, Crystal. Start over.
Well,
Go ahead, Crystal.
how do you improve your open-ended questions? I'm not the best at it. I don't even think I understand the objection, the objective of the open-ended questions, but I'm not the best with them.
Understandable. I'm going to type something in for. Are you driving right now?
No.
Wonderful. All right. Right now, I just sent you the 4 most important open-ended questions. What, how, where, and when. You got those?
Got those.
There's also another one, Crystal, that's why. Stay away from why. It can make people defensive, okay?
Yeah, I do that a lot at work.
Stop doing that. Why makes people feel that you're and it's not the same. So make sure that at all times you are looking and sounding comfortable so that when you use what, where, how, or when, it's going to be more of a welcoming question. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
What you want to do is when you are going to ask a question, Crystal, you start with what information you need to know. In other words, if you want to know how long did this take, what's this cost, when did we begin, start with by thinking about what information you want. Make sense?
Yes.
Once you know what information you want, you look at which question is going to be the most efficient. If you want more detail, ask one of these what are called collector questions. How, what, when, or where. If you just want a yes or a no, if you want to move on from the conversation, then you use what are called the closed questions that are typically can you, are you, will you. When you are speaking, Crystal, pause 2 or 3 seconds in your mind. The average person processes words at 500 words per minute, Crystal. What we want to speak about 150. You with me?
Gotcha.
So even if you triple your rate of speech, you're only going to speak about 450 words a minute. You still can't outthink your brain. That's why we dream in pictures. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you're speaking, Crystal, pause, think about what you want to say, then ask one clear question. Don't ask 2 at a time. Don't add into it information. Ask one clear question and then pause and let that question marinate and allow for an answer. And you'll find you'll get more answer for your question without dominating the conversation. And they'll be more receptive because they won't be defensive.
Thank you. And what were the collector questions again?
How, what, where, and when. Stay away from why. What, how, where, and when. I also put those in the chat room. Those are called collector questions.
Thank you. Miss Marcia, I see your hand up.
I would like you to elaborate a little bit more about when you were dealing with the possibility of being paralyzed, and mentally, what did you do to get yourself from that position to being a complete, whole, physical person again?
Oh, sugar. Don't make me break out some tissues up here, Mark. Oh, sugar. Well, the first thing I had to do was, first, I cussed a lot, and I was mad a lot, and I questioned Allah, Jehovah, Jesus, Yahweh. I questioned all of them because I was ticked off, and I'm thinking, out of all the things I try to do for people, this is what I get? So I had to go through a lot of that self-deprivating, anger, why me? What? I went through all of that. You with me, Marsha? Now, that took a while. That wasn't a quick fix, so I had to deal with all of that. Second thing I had to do was accept my reality. And that was hard. I had to look at, I can still think, I can still talk, I can still breathe, I can still kiss people, I can still feel hugs. So I had to look, okay, what do I have left? What can I do with what I got left? I remember my grandmother, she would buy this huge thing of hamburger meat. And we'd start off with hamburgers, then it would become sloppy Joe, and then by Thursday it was just tacos. She said, "Hey, what do I got left? I'm gonna make this work all the way down to Sunday till I get some more meat." So we had to make it work. So it was just one of those. Once you realize where you are, you can change your mindset, which was hard for me because as a motivator, as a speaker, how does it look when I'm over here moping and complaining? It was to the situation where my dad realized that I was not being myself, Marsha, and he showed me one of these cartoon caricatures that changed my whole mentality, Marsha. You ready for this? There was a picture of 2 people standing next to each other, Marsha, and one person had no arms, no legs, and was balancing fruit on their head. And they had a sign around their neck that said oranges, $1. You with me, Marsha? The next person was standing up straight, both arms, both legs, and had a sign, give me some money. Come on, Marsha. You see that? So I realized no matter what position you're in, what's in your head, what's in your mindset. My grandfather was one of the sharpest dressed men I've ever known. We were walking down the street and there was a homeless person that came up to us, Marcia. I could see this homeless guy. I could smell him before I could see him. You with me, Marcia? My grandfather gave me $1 and said, give this to that guy. And I said, Granddaddy, he may smoke it, he may drink it. Grandfather said, we don't know what he's gonna do with it, but he needs it more than us. Give it to him. The brother came up to me, Marcia, had on one freaking shoe, barefoot, and got on one raggedy shoe. I handed this guy $1. The guy says, young man, I don't need any money. What makes you think I need anything? And I said, well, you just lost a shoe. Least I can do is help you out. He lifted up his foot and said, no, I didn't lose a shoe. I just found one. Hey, the mindset, Marcia. What do you have? So that made me change.
Vincent, how much did your athleticism help you in terms of developing the ability to understand commands in advance and anticipation?
The neurosurgeons told me that being somewhat above average health and somewhat above average muscularity, that I was able to recuperate. With my physical therapy, it was a detriment, Maurice, because I was a knucklehead and I know how to lift. I know how to train. And the worst thing you can do with a knucklehead like me is to give me a little bit of knowledge and then give me new information that contradicts what I think I know. First of all, I have no medical training. I've never gone to medical school, but I'm arguing with professional physical therapists about this is not the way you do it. I'm like, this is the way you do it. Like, look here, look here, you black something. You can't move. You got no neck. You got steel in your neck. For example, when you turn your head like this, there are certain movements that are in the brachial muscles that allow you to do that. Mine were destroyed. So I'm thinking I got to turn my shoulders like this. And I'm arguing with, if you want to build a muscle, you got to use the muscle. And they're saying, not if the muscle doesn't exist. Like, oh, okay. So I had to allow myself to be reprogrammed, Maurice, because I thought I knew about weights and strength. And it's almost where you're trying to teach a dolphin how to swim when you put it on the beach. It's a whole different world, and you can't compare it that way. So my background was a detriment. Well, that's not true. My ego was the problem. My lack of allowing other people to teach me new ways was the problem. It was almost the equivalent, Maurice, when I would do the classes, and I'd have a student that says, when I got in trouble at UTC, Maurice, because I was the only teacher, I'm gonna get in trouble. You gonna get me in trouble, Glenn. I was the only professor that didn't let their students use note cards. And the dean sat around and they said, well, where's your section in your book on how to use note cards? And I said, I don't teach note cards. And people were arguing where they didn't know. So the same way my athletic background taught me about strength and speed, that was counterproductive when I was learning new techniques about how to walk, how to stand up. I'm not training for a fight right now. I'm not training for a football game. I need to learn how to stand up and not go, ah! It was a whole new ball game. So it helped me, Maurice. Once I got my ego out of the way, it helped me a lot.
You know, we've talked a lot about overcoming adversity. You've looked at physical challenges, but we have all recently and are still, to a certain extent, dealing with adversity caused by this thing called COVID.
Yes, sir.
Social distancing. Excuse me. So, how did you adjust? What is your message to those people that are still maybe haven't quite figured it out and or haven't gotten back into the routine? You've done a great job of transferring virtually, but it took you a while to get there.
Yes, sir. And I'm still adjusting, like all of us. First of all, for anybody that's on this call in regard to COVID, let me always preface this. You can't put a timeline on someone's level of comfort. there may be people who never recover from COVID. They may not trust the vaccines. They may not trust the information from the CDC. You can't put a timeline over, well, when you take your mask off. Whenever you're comfortable, that's when you take your mask off. Well, how long do I have to I say distance? You hug me when you feel comfortable. You can't put a timeline. Even if let's be real. If the CD said, hear ye, it is officially over. We found the vaccine. COVID no longer exists ever. You gonna still see people in masks, and they have that right. So you've got to be aware that certain people have comfort levels. Now, my dad is one of those people. He has not gotten the vaccines. He's forced to wear the mask. He's thinking, look, I wasn't trying to kiss you or hug you before COVID. I ain't trying to be 6 feet around you now. Hey, I wash my hands anyway. He's like, hey, I'm glad y'all caught up. What? You wash your hands now? He's like, what were y'all doing before when you fixed my food? So in his mind, he's thinking, thank goodness COVID. Somebody washing their hands for a change. So first, no, you can't put a time on someone's comfort. At the same time, I think we need to have a respect factor. I have been double vaccinated. I still wear my mask when they require me to wear my mask. When I have clients come in, I'm still taking their temperatures. I still maintain the 6 feet distance. They reduce it to 3. Now, I'm still respectful of it. But if I'm around someone who says, Vincent, I've been vaccinated. Vincent, I don't want to wear a mask. I will shake their hand and I will hug them and I will sanitize afterwards. I will make sure I do all the things that we can do. But you have to respect each person's comfort zone, because historically, and this may get sensitive, historically, there have been documented cases where people have been experimented on. So there's legitimacy in your doubt. There have been documented cases where people have been lied to about what's been injected in their bodies for the mere fact of allowing people to be studied to see how bad does this get. We can look at the impacts of what happened in Tuskegee. We can look at experimentations of syphilis. We can look at experimentations of smallpox. Even the early pilgrims deliberately gave the Native Americans blankets that were saturated with smallpox and said, here you go. We want to keep you warm. So we can look at the history of, we all have valid reasons to doubt, but at the same time, we have to at some point trust what's best for you. And whatever that is, I respect it.
Well said. Corey.
How was that?
That was good.
I just want to say something real quick. Yesterday, I had some clients tell me that they never got COVID, then they got the vaccine, and 2 weeks later, they got COVID. They told me that yesterday.
I had the pleasure of I have a contract with the city of Chattanooga where once a month we do webinars called wellness webinars through the mayor's office. And I had the pleasure of having a doctor who was on the call, and he had mentioned that there is a percentage of, it's about 9%, whether you use the Johnson or the Pfizer or the Moderna. And by the way, I just did this like a month ago, so don't think I'm really this smart. I'm just remembering what he told me. If you look at those 3 vaccines, regardless of which one you look at, there is either a 91 to a 95% success ratio, which means there's still a 5% to 9%. It ain't perfect. It's super duper good, but it ain't perfect. And each person has, let me get it right, pre-existing conditions. So if you're like me and you have asthma, or you're like my mom who is in her 80s, who has always been healthy, but now she's African-American female who has breathing issues. If you are like my wife, who has a plethora of allergies, if you have had if you've had pneumonia in the past, then Corey, you're going to be at a higher level of susceptibility. But the vaccine, it's 90 to 95% effective, but it ain't perfect. And I think it's an abuse of the science. It's going to sound insensitive, Corey. If you have 1,000 people and 9 die, that sucks that 9 died, but that percentage is 0.9%. So nobody wants to lose their life over it. You have to look at what are the existing conditions, and it ain't perfect, so you do what you can.
I just want to say this: they were in their early 30s.
Do you know? Even if they were perfectly healthy and something happens, that sucks. is that an abnormal thing or is that a normal thing?
We don't know the answer to that.
Exactly. We don't know. And what we hope is that they do a proper study, Corey, that they look at that during the autopsy, they look at that past history. If there was no past history and there were no existing conditions, that's an anomaly that totally sucks. And nobody needs to lose their life. And the timing of it, Corey, is suspect. The timing of it. You were fine before. As soon as you get it, all of those factors play in, and it's unfortunate that anyone has to lose their life. What we hope is that they get it right.
Yeah, within 30 days, I was also told in this building and also next door that there were 2 people that got the Moderna vaccine, and one died 10 days later, one died 3 days later. And one was working on a building being built in Fort O, and then took the vaccine and died. So I've had personal accounts of people telling me these things, not just hearsay. So
I get it. And just, some of you know this already, but I had to do my research. Technically, and I may blow your mind. You ready for this, Corey?
I'm ready.
You ready, Corey? Technically, the vaccine is not a vaccine. According to the AMA, the American Medical Association, what constitutes a vaccine is you have a microscopic or percentile element of that virus, and you inject it into the body for the sole purpose of boosting the immune system by exposure to that disease or that virus. There is no COVID at all in the COVID vaccine. Now, so it's not technically a virus. Now, according to the CDC, once that became public knowledge, you ready for this, Corey? You ready, Corey?
I've been ready the whole time.
They're now changing the definition of what constitutes a vaccine. So they're not giving you COVID to build up your COVID. They gave us something else. And the same way we don't know exactly what's in Tylenol or NyQuil or Dayquil, we're just taking stuff. We don't know what is already in our bodies that are impacting that. So we're taking stuff out of trust. And sometimes we get the short end of the stick, and that sucks.
You know, the other thing is typically with a vaccine, it's associated with permanency, like the smallpox vaccination. That was a vaccine.
Well, and according to the science of the CDC, there is a possibility that 6 months to a year, we may have to get vaccinated again. It's not a permanent thing. And that's the reason some people are resistant and they're going to wait and for the next vaccine to come through because this may be something continual. It's like the flu shot. They keep finding new strands, but the flu shot, actually, the vaccine has some flu in it. The last time I got the flu, hey Corey, the last time I got the flu was about 14 years ago when I took the freaking flu shot. I'd had the flu since.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the point I was making, is the fact that the COVID vaccine is not permanent. They don't know how long.
You're right. It's not permanent, and they don't know. And myself included, I'm one of the guinea pigs. Let's see how this does. I'm fortunate. I'm lucky, and it's unfortunate that people have to lose their lives over some experimentation. My father always told me that medical experts and doctors, they are practicing medicine. It's a medical practice.
Right.
They're practicing. And some of us are guinea pigs.
You know, I had heard about certain parts of Africa not having as much of a problem with COVID. I just happened to have a friend in Nigeria, so I called him. His name's Olgie. In fact, I thought he was going to be on today. And I said, Olgie, I have heard that you take the Sunday pill there. A lot of people in Nigeria. He said, oh, you mean chloroquine? He called hydrochloroquine chloroquine. He said, yeah, you see, they still have malaria there, which is what hydrochloroquine was developed for. And they take it on Sundays. They call it the Sunday pill. Okay. And those that take it have not gotten COVID. So anyway,
can we get back a little bit more onto communications? Because I'd like to ask Vincent's opinion about How do you think the world is communicating, especially since you deal with so many young people and the vocabulary and the language nuances that they are using? How are we doing as a society in being able to communicate?
Thank you for asking, Maurice. And Chris, we see your hand up, Chris. I'm going to answer Maurice's question, then we get to you, Chris. And thank y'all for being patient. In terms of communication, especially with young people, here's what I think is the problem, Maurice. Older people, and to those millennials, older people is anybody who's probably 29 or older. So older people are not embracing younger people's vocabulary. We're trying to infringe on them to speak proper, not use slang. And here's the mistake. As older people, we have better experiences, or we have more experiences, or we've had time to have more experiences, and we're not letting them know the value of how to speak properly. We're not coming down to their level. We're trying to take 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds and to bring them up to our mentality, and that's not fair. We've got to meet them on their level and to teach them it's okay to have your slang. It's okay to use your certain terms. It's okay to be on social media. Do that. But what they're missing is, what's the value of learning the other way? The same way we may not see the value of Instagram, they don't see the value of a face-to-face interview. And the disconnect is each side is trying to convince the other that their side is right, as opposed to people of our generation, of your generation, saying, well, what do you think is going to happen if you can't interview in person? What do you think is going to happen if you don't know about classical music? What do you think is going to happen if you can't interview properly? We get them to accept there's nothing wrong with using your slang or dressing the way that you dress. What's the problem is, can you adapt? Can you adjust? The same way, if a person saw me watching an Atlanta Falcon football game, they may not think I was educated or knew any kind of words. hey, get me in my environment, baby. Oh, sugar. But the same way, when someone sees me on stage, they may not think that I cut up around my face. You know how we cut up, Maurice. But when we're on air, we have a different persona. The same way, young people need to know there is a value in knowing how to adapt. When you meet a person who's your senior, you don't say, hey, what's up, my man? You say, good morning, Mr. Maurice. You need to learn how to adapt. And it's the adaptability that we need to teach. Don't tell them they're wrong. Tell them here is a time and place of how to talk and how to dress, and to teach them the importance why. That's what's missing.
Beautiful.
Chris! Thank you, Maurice, for asking. I saw your hand up, Chris.
Willenberg.
Yeah,
It's all
so
yours, buddy.
thank you. All right, so with all of us coming back from COVID, probably haven't done much public speaking lately, so we're getting back out there for the first times. And so obviously the thing to do to get used to it again and be confident in what you're doing is just keep doing it over and over. But what kind of advice do you have when you're presenting new stuff that you've written for the first time to discuss? And how do you tell if the people are kind of getting your drift or not, you know?
Gotcha. Great question, Chris. The first is, Chris, keep driving, Chris. Keep driving. I see you looking down. Keep driving. We need you in the world, Chris. Here's what you need to do, Chris. First, if you want to improve your presentation skills, here are two things that I highly recommend. First is get a coach. You need someone to tell you what you're doing wrong and how to do it right. The misconception is practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. Because if you practice wrong, you get real good at sucking. So don't think that just practice. So get somebody that knows what they're doing. Second thing, Chris, is when you're doing new information. You may hate this, Chris, but I'm here to tell you the truth, brother. Video record yourself, Chris. Video record yourself. Play it back to a stranger. Don't look at it to yourself. Play it back and say, look at your posture. Look at your body language. You need to know what you're telling the world. When you give a new presentation, it needs to only be new to them. It can't be new to you, Chris, which means you got to be comfortable giving it. So when you give a presentation, it's got to be the 8th or 9th time you've done it. So Chris, get a professional coach that can tell you what to do right. And number two, don't make your first presentation presentation. Make it your 8th or 9th time that you've done it. That makes sense, Chris?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My man, you're a good man, Chris.
Vincent, I think it would be time we could take a pause here. Where could someone find
That's
a
wonderful.
communications coach?
I'm ready.
Oh, this is your time, buddy.
Well, I would be honored to help anyone that
Yes.
needed to improve their communication. Maurice, Get your mute button, Maurice.
Yeah, I'm going to mute him.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah, we got him.
If you wanted I am a communication coach, and I specialize in improving public speaking and presentation skills. If any of you want to contact me, my name is in the chat room, vincentphipps.com. There are also elements. You can also reach me at 423-400-1040. I think that's already in there, but I'll put it in again. Let me share with you guys a couple of things. If money is an issue, I get it. There are several resources out there that you can use to improve your presentation skills. My book, Lead Out Loud, it's available if you want to improve your presentation skills. But I didn't want to come on here and sell. But I did want to let you know that you want to get a coach. Someone, and now if it ain't me, get somebody that cares about you. Get somebody that wants you to do better. Because if you type in public speaking on YouTube, oh my gosh, you're going to get 1 million views and hits, and you don't know if they're good videos or bad videos. There are people out there who, quite frankly, don't know what they're doing, and they're telling you wrong stuff. I'll give you an example. When Glenn asked me about how to get a coach, and Chris asked that question, I was asked to do a panel in Miami, Florida, and the purpose of the presentation was to help people overcome their stage fright. They found out that I was a professional speaker, and I have what's called the CSP, the Certified Speaker Professional. That's the thing that Glenn mentioned that put me in the top 1% of speakers in the world. So they saw me as an expert speaker. And I'm on a panel with other expert speakers. There was this lady, oh my gosh, we argued on stage in front of like 1,000 people. This woman, oh sugar. This woman is telling people in the audience to imagine them with no clothes on. Have y'all heard that? Have y'all heard that before?
Yeah.
And Glenn, she's saying it with such reverence, what you want to do is to imagine your audience naked. Now, this will calm you down. And I'm over here, seriously, lady? You have a PhD? I'm thinking, what freaky deaky came up with this? How about, and then somebody asked me, well, they said, Mr. Phipps, do you agree with that? And you know how you have to be polite and respectful? I never said, lady, you're full of crap. This is where I learned respectability. And I said, ma'am, I've heard that before about sharing that you should imagine your audience naked. I said, what research can you share with us today for those that don't know where that's been effective? She couldn't give me one. And I said, okay, what documentation have you personally experienced with seeing people with no clothes on? I said, if that were the case, then everybody on South Beach, Miami are professional speakers. Is that what you're saying? So she realized, okay, full of crap. That's why you need a coach that knows the research, that knows what they're doing, and it's going to make sure they give you content that's going to help you. Not just to repeat stuff you've heard from other people, but you want a coach that will tell you the truth, tell you where you're messing up, but more importantly, give you the information and the skills to get better. And everybody's different. You need a coach that can adapt to you. Some people are loquacious, but don't have structure. Some people have structure, but are scared to talk. Some people can't be succinct. Some people are too succinct. So you want to find a coach that not only understands you, but has the science and the knowledge to make you personally better. That's what you want. And you can't find that on YouTube or Instagram. You need a human being to tell you what you're doing wrong so you can do it right.
How important is follow-up as you chart your progress?
It's tremendous. The importance is that so many of us, Maurice, want perfection, but we forget about progression. You're not going to be a masterful speaker overnight. You're going to mess up. You're going to say, you're going to say, I was like, you're going to say basically and practically, but you want to track your progression. The same way I will tell my clients and students, I will videotape my students. I will videotape my clients, Maurice, and I will say, in 5 minutes, you said 16 times. And you said, I was like 5 times. If you give speech 2, if you said 16 times, speech 2, the goal is cut that in half. Now we want 8 I'll give you 8 Heck, I may give you 9 I'll give you now. Speech 3, you get 3 Speech 4, I'm going to give you 1. there's progression, and people can process that better, saying, okay, I'm going to mess up, which you will, but you're not trying to be a perfect speaker. You're trying to be better than you were the previous day. Don't strive for perfection, strive for progression, and you'll always get better. Maybe not perfect, but better, and that's the goal.
Great message. Robert Ritchie, you have any words of wisdom or a question for Ivan? Bob?
You mean Vincent?
I mean, yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Got to catch on to that there, right?
Well, Vincent Ivan Phipps.
You know, my company name is Communication VIP, and the VIP stands for what we teach, very important presentations. The VIP, they're also my initials.
Neat.
And the I stands for?
Ivan. And the first name is Vincent. So go ahead, Robert. Vincent has your full attention.
Okay. All the biggest, the only question I have is where you got the pen. I love that, especially since I'm in Toastmasters and everything.
Yes, sir.
And it's a frequent word that we all use. Of course, that
Absolutely,
one,
sir.
my other
I
word.
had these pens designed. Me and another gentleman whose name is William Cannell. He designed these buttons for me. We went through about 3 or 4 tweaks, and I designed these buttons myself along with William Cannell. So if you want these buttons, they are available through my company. Contact me, and I can get these buttons to you. And also, Robert, I also have a button that I've just designed for my millennials and my Gen Zs. And I also have a button I just designed that has "I was like" with a line through it. I got him, baby. I got him for you, baby. Holla at your boy. I got you. Hey, and also, Robert, we do offer bulk discounts.
Okay, sounds great. The biggest one I wish you had a pin on, especially for millennials and those folks, is the F-bomb. I don't know. They just seem to. It's every other word is F-bomb. And it's like I can't understand it. And I tell them, to me, your mother created you out of love.
Yes, sir. I hear you.
And she did the sex act out of love.
I hear you, sir. I hear you. One of the things that Tony Robbins mentions, he has a special out that's called "I'm Not Your Guru." It's on Netflix. "I'm Not Your Guru." And he was asked about his use of profanity. And I had the honor of being on stage with Tony Robbins back in the year 2000. I shared the stage with Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, and also Christopher Reeve, who had the same kind of neck injury as I had. And I had the pleasure of interacting with Tony Robbins on stage. He's like 6'9", big old dude. He had mentioned that he uses profanity on purpose to get people's attention. And I'm not a cursor, and I know that some people are. And whether you're talking to young people about using the F-bomb or the B word or "I was like" or slang, we've got to understand that communication is not just one way. It's about understanding where a person's coming from, understanding their message. And when people are emotional, when people are angry, when people don't have any other words to express themselves, the worst thing we can do is to critique their words and miss their message. Because if people are upset and they don't have, if a person says, "I feel like I'm not being treated fairly," they may say, "Man, this is effed up." And that's all they say. But they don't have the vocabulary to say, "I feel as if I'm not being denied all the opportunities, and this is unsatisfactory, and I want something to be done about it." They may not have that propensity to say that. They may just say, "Man, this is some boo." That's all they can say. The emotion is they're not being treated with respect. They're being treated unfairly. So instead of looking at the words they're using, there comes a point where we got to understand, why are you saying this? Why do you feel this way? And then when you address, you listen to them, you've heard them, and they feel respected and understood. Then you bring in, here's another way to say that. Here's another way to do it. But if we do it too soon, we're critiquing them instead of listening to them. And the best way to alienate people is to show them that you don't care and trying to fix them before you understand them.
Well, language and music has certainly had a huge impact, especially certain words, the N word for particular. You have the younger generation saying it's a sign of affection. The older generation says it's the words that I heard before I was attacked. So, how do you reconcile that a balance in our community?
With the cultural sensitivity of our words, there are several words that have a sensitivity to it. The N word, the B word, there are certain derogatory terms for Latinos and for Asians. You've got to be culturally aware. And if you agree or disagree, you have that right. My philosophy is err on the side of conservative. Don't use those words at all. If you choose to use those words, be ready for the repercussion. Be ready for the impact. I listen to music that has a lot of those words in it, but when my daughter said, "Dad, what did he just say?" If I feel bad about explaining that, then maybe that's something I shouldn't be playing. You have the right to say whatever it is you want to say, but know the repercussions come with it. I tell my students, I tell my clients, I tell anyone that pays me, what's the environment? What's the room look like? What's that environment like? There are certain times I will use words to get the attention of those who I'm standing in front of. When I'm in front of a 19, 20-year-old and I'm trying to tell them how to be respectful to a young woman, I will not use the B word. If there is a situation where I'm in a confrontation and I am trying to get someone's attention and I am feeling like my life is in danger, I might say, I will whoop your, just because if I say I will defend myself to the highest point of my ability, that doesn't register. I gotta let you know, sucker, you got one more time here, sucker, in this hole. I take these vests on quick. So you've got to know your audience, and there's a time and place, and what we're not teaching is adaptability. If you can bring all that energy, can you tone it back? If you can curse, can you not curse? If you can yell, can you be quiet? If you can talk, can you listen? And we've got to teach that balance.
You know, it's interesting. I follow Tony Robbins, and I've noticed that he seems to have gotten away from using quite as many curse words as he was using it.
Sponsors, Glenn. Sponsors.
Get down.
Now, are any of you old enough and been around long enough? You remember there was a guy during football season that had a program. It was called Leonard's Losers. Anyone remember that? He would predict the losers of the football games, especially the college football games. His name was Leonard Postero, and he was syndicated throughout the U.S. And he was out of Athens, Georgia, and he was a very accomplished speaker and used to talk about how Leonard's Losers came about. And I was with some clients at the Athens Country Club in Athens, Georgia, here years ago, and ran into Leonard. I'd known him for years, introduced him. I said, here's Leonard's Losers you've heard before. Well, he just started, it was one curse word right after the other. It was really embarrassing. I actually apologized to the people that were with my clients.
Wow.
And so as a result, you know, he went down. They were familiar with him, but after they saw what he was like in person, now I'll admit he'd had a few cocktails, but still, it wasn't appropriate.
Our vocabulary can be influenced by external elements.
It can be. Angela, have you picked up something that might help you in your Instagram program? Are you where you can safely talk as you're driving, Angela?
Hi, good. It takes just a second to go back and star 6. Yes, I absolutely. Thank you so much. This is outstanding. It's just an honor to be in this circle. I have so many questions around the communication side, and then just also the cursing and things like that. That I definitely would like to reach out to Mr. Phipps. I really would like to do that. I'm going to do that.
Yes,
but
ma'am,
I do.
please.
I hope.
And I'll put my phone number and email in the call again. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to help. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yes, the cursing for me, I'll just quickly touch on it. Years ago, it's a little rough on the ears to hear, the F-bombs and things like that. And I have a 16-year-old son, but I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Gary V. I don't know if you know who that is. I'm in the social media area. And so,
Gary Vaynerchuk.
but yes, absolutely. And so what I found was
He
for
curses.
years, I couldn't.
He curses.
He does. Oh, he does. And I couldn't listen, right? But I allowed myself to get past listening to that, because what he was saying, when he would have a conversation with the young people, there's a connection there that that he was listening to them. And so once I sort of got past that, I started realizing this person he's allowing these children, right, these young people, to speak, and he's listening to what they're saying. And so
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times it's really difficult not to hear what others are saying, because that it's so hard on us, on our ears, and what we've been taught and what we know to be, that it hits us. It's sort of like it drives us.
Absolutely.
It's painful to hear.
Well, go ahead, Angela.
I was just going to say thank you. I won't go any further, but I think, you understand, and it has allowed me to realize that, well, I've invited young people into, my platform, even though they have their rappers and things like that. And some of the music of certain, it's not anything I'm not a rapper. I don't really I don't really get into that music or anything, but I want to understand and respect the human behind what they're doing. And so that is the purpose of the platform that I do, is to get to understand the human being behind. I may not understand what they're doing exactly. I may not relate to it. I may not have the same experiences and struggles and life experiences that they've had, but I want to understand who they are and where they're coming from. And so it gives not only me, but other people an opportunity to hear and see the human being behind the other stuff.
Come on, so Angela. Angela. Tell them something, Angela. Tell them something, Mama. Oh, sugar. Often we will miss eating a steak because it's served on a paper plate. And we can't, come on, Earl. There's something good right here. But because of this presentation, because of delivery, I'm not eating that. It's on a paper plate. Sometimes we'll miss a great message because there are some vulgarities in there. There's some language in there. And you have the right to be sensitive. You have the right to consider certain words offensive. But what Angela was saying is that don't miss the message because it's overshadowed by the mood. Filter through it if you can. When my wife is mad at me, do you think I'm counting her ums? No. Hey, Earl. Hey, she can all day long. I ain't counting none of them. Hey, Glenn, I'm trying to find out, what did I do? Because I'm not saying, well, honey, I know you're upset, but are you fully aware that you're using closed-ended questions right now? Oh, no. That is not the time. That is not the time. So there are times where you need to let someone's raw, ugly, nasty, vulgar message come out. Don't critique the delivery. Where is that coming from? That's the issue. Because if you don't like the words they use or the volume they use or the tone they use, you're missing it. Don't get caught up on that. To the people who get caught up over volume and tone and words, they're saying, I don't really want to know the true message. I'm going to nitpick any little thing to avoid the message. When my wife says, why didn't you clean up the kitchen? And I say, I don't like your tones. What I really want to say is, I was lazy, but I don't want to do So don't let the mood and the tone and the words, don't let that keep you from what's really at a person's heart. And when you can accept those nasty words, you can accept that nasty tone, you can accept that nasty delivery, it'll make you stronger because you're not addressing the dirt that's on the surface. You're impacting what's underneath so that you can clean the whole object so that you understand what's at the heart of the message, not at the surface.
What's Angela's Instagram? Sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Angela, your Instagram?
Yes, hi, thank you for asking. It's Angela Vasquez is my name. It's all underscore IG underscore live underscore with underscore Angela.
One more time, please.
It's IG underscore live underscore with underscore Angela. But it should come up under my name, or if you can reach out to Glenn, then I can we can exchange information, and I can reach out to you. I'd love that.
Yeah, I'll connect you, Crystal. It's a good program. I suggest you get on it. Vincent, I have noticed that sometimes when people start using a lot of profanity, if I don't respond with profanity and genuinely try to engage with them, I find that they slack up on the profanity. How about
that will be considered what's called a mirroring effect, where you model the behavior you anticipate. Don't get hung up over profanity. If you're a cursor and that's the way you talk, okay. If it's not, don't. I wouldn't model them in terms of trying to do what they're going to do. If you are wanting them to stop using profanity, that's something you can't control. If you use more, they use more. If you use less, they use less. It goes back to making sure you understand what they're trying to say. If they use a lot of profanity, ask them questions. Find out what's at the heart of it. Profanity is not the issue. That's a small element to a bigger concern. Find out what they're talking about. Find out what their message is. Nobody went to go see Eddie Murphy or Richard Pryor because they cursed. They went to them because they were funny and it made them feel good. Because they cursed was a byproduct. Nobody ever said, well, don't say F, it won't be funny. It's going to be funny no matter what you do. But because that's who they are, that was their authentic delivery. Now, you are going to have people that are going to have sensitivities with any issues. My dad, to this day, does not like black. And he does not like African American. I remember a lady giving me a compliment that I was the nicest colored boy she'd ever met. Now, this was the 90s. This was in Murfreesboro, but MTSU. This was MTSU. She said, and she leans in like it's a secret, you're the nicest colored boy I ever met. Now here's the thing. I was with a buddy of mine who was straight, brother up. He was straight, fight the power. No, white man devil. He was straight. He was all about it. He was all about it. He said, you ain't gonna check her. You ain't gonna check this white. Like, I said, dude, in her mind, she's trying to be kind. In her mind, sure. I mean, can you imagine how she was raised? If she says I'm colored, and this is 1992. So in her mind, she's doing something nice. So if I come to her, if I say, thank you so much, ma'am, I said, you can feel free to say African American or black. I said, people may think that you are being mean if you say colored. Oh, well, you're the nicest black boy. Hey, she could have said you're the nicest darky. Understand what people are coming from. There are times and places to be angry and to be mad. I look at what's needed to make everybody walk away better. Now, if she may say black from now on. You know what? When you go from calling women certain terms, calling homosexuals certain terms, calling Latinos certain terms, where is it coming from? And my mom, who I love to death, she still says Oriental. I said, Mom, it's not Oriental. Ooh, I think she's an Oriental. I said, Mom, she say Asian. You don't know she's from China? I said, Mama, Asia's a big freaking country. She can be Vietnamese, Filipino, Korean, North Korean. Mama, once again, she's trying to be respectful. So know that people are coming from a place with limited vocabulary, limited exposure. People don't know. And if you come at them with anger, that suppresses their ability to talk to people who don't look like them. Make them feel comfortable, make them feel welcome, then educate them. But if you critique them too soon, you miss a chance to make the world a better place.
And that is a good point, a stopping point. I think we're all about trying to improve ourselves, thus trying to help make the world to be a better place for all. And you mentioned a phrase there, walk away better. And I think that everyone's going to leave here a better person today because they got to engage with Vincent Ivan Phipps. Thank you so much, Vincent.
Thank you all for taking the time. You all are awesome. Thank you, Glenn, for having this platform, my brother. Love you to death, my man. You are too kind. Thank you, Glenn.
Love you so much, folks. Remember, and let's see, gosh, I forget who our speaker is for next time, but time after next, it'll be Rick, and I'll get that posted real soon. It's been wonderful being with you. Thank you again so much, Vincent Ivan Phipps, for being.
Take care, everybody. Amplify the lives of others.
I
no
love
no
each
arms
and
today.
every one of you. And have an absolutely wonderful day. And remember, your day will be just as good as you visualize it. I'm out of here.
Thank you.